I am reading a community post from 11 months ago, the topic of which, due to the current deception, is red hot again. Here we go. If I were to earn $10 every time a high-ranking politician, be it Israel's prime minister, an American president, or someone else, the Pope, or an Islamic leader, says the words peace and security, I'd be rich by now. If I were to make another $10 if this was coupled with the comment, this is it, made by one of the countless Rapture watching channels, I'd be richer still. In 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 1 through 3, we read, But concerning the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I should write to you. For you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. The common interpretation is that some politician will publicly say those words, preferably in the context of presenting a plan to create peace in the Middle East, and then the rapture will happen, viewed here as the sudden destruction that will come upon the earth. Here are a number of observations regarding this interpretation. The rapture is a signless event. This includes politicians saying peace and security. Paul did not give this detail to the church in Thessalonica as a sign they were supposed to look for to figure out when the rapture would happen. Do world leaders use those exact words? Yes, they do. There were speeches in the past where excited rapture watchers counted the number of occurrences, and the result was rather astonishing. It was used in an excessive way. I remember a relatively short Trump speech from years ago, where this phrase was used 20 times or so. However, the following things must be noted. The restrainer is still in place. Paul explains this in his second letter to the Thessalonians. I always use the analogy of someone trying to drive a stick shift with the handbrake on. You can floor the gas pedal all you want, but you won't be able to accelerate, nor will you get very far. That's a picture of the world leaders trying to make things happen by saying peace and security. Which leads us to the next point, the fact that they say it. When those words are used, they are used to express a wish. What we need is peace and security. It isn't more than wishful thinking. X action plan will bring peace and security. It is not them claiming to have already achieved it. However, this is what the verses in 1 Thessalonians convey. When they say, aka claim, they have peace and security, then destruction will come. Look at how the verb is used in 1 John 1:8, for example. If we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. This is a claim that is being made. So what Paul is saying here is that there will come a time when they will say, assert, that peace and security has now been achieved. It'll be an observation of a reality. So in this sense, can anybody claim that peace and security has been achieved today? Can we observe this when we look at Israel? I guess you can answer this question yourself. But when will the transition from a mere wish to reality happen? Only when the Antichrist comes on the scene, which will not happen until after the rapture of the church. He is the rider on the white horse, the first seal judgment that is going to be opened by the Lamb once the church is in heaven, Revelation 6, verses 1 and 2. Other than all previous attempts to achieving peace in the Middle East, he will not only wish for it to happen and talk about it, but will actually accomplish it. The Antichrist is characterized by one verb only, but it is used twice and in different forms. He comes conquering and to conquer. To conquer conveys his intent. But other than the world leaders today, this time it does not end with a declaration of intent, he will actually bring it about. He comes conquering. This means he will manage to solve antagonistic situations and bring leaders to agreeing with him. How do we know that the Antichrist will actually bring peace? Well, we need look no further than the second seal judgment, which is the rider on the red horse who brings war. This is the destruction talked about in the Thessalonians verse. About that rider it says, "It was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth." You can only take what was there in the first place. So the peace the Antichrist brings doesn't last long. By the way, one of the wars that might take place at that time, as a result of the second seal being opened, can very well be the Gog of Magog invasion prophesied in Ezekiel 38. It sounds very much like the conditions that the invaders of Israel will observe at that time as a result of the short-lived peace. In that chapter of Ezekiel, it says about Israel that they were brought out of the nations and now all of them dwell safely. The invaders are quoted as follows: "I will go up against a land of unwalled villages. I will go to a peaceful people who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates." Can this be said about Israel today? No. In order to fix the deal with Israel and the surrounding nations that will bring this short-lived peace, the Antichrist will broker or confirm a covenant with the parties involved, a covenant that he claims will last 7 years. But we know from Scripture that he will break it at midpoint. We learn this from Daniel 9, verse 27. Now, this is something the world leaders are also trying to bring to pass. Again, if I got, say, another $100 for such a 7-year plan being announced, I'd be even richer. Note that they don't suggest a 10-year or 6-year action plan. No, exactly 7 years. Here are 2 examples. On May 24, in 2021, Pope Francis launched the Vatican's 7-year Laudato Si action plan to implement environmental sustainability. Was that it? No, it has already started and we're still here. Second example, on June 13, in 2023, the Department of Economic and Social Affairs of the UN announced, "We need 7 years of accelerated, transformative action to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals." Was that it? No, we're still here. But how come, you ask, that the powers that be use this language and take their patterns from the Bible? Well, we get this question answered in the passage that talks about the restrainer. There, it says, "For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way." That's in 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 7. The mystery of lawlessness is already at work, but the lawless one, verse 8, himself, who will actually bring all this about, can and will only be revealed after the rapture, only when the Lord releases the handbrake. So all we are witnessing while we are still here is a dress rehearsal, them trying to drive the car with the handbrake on. So next time you hear someone on the news say peace and security, or present a 7-year peace plan of sorts, you can turn over in bed again and peacefully sleep some more. This isn't it. The rapture can happen at any moment in time, no matter whether there are talks of peace or of war. We don't take our cues from the powers that be, their attempts to step on the gas with the handbrake on. We have the Prince of Peace indwelling us in the midst of the mystery of lawlessness being at work. Christ will come at his own time.